With Leeds Lit Fest. It's absolutely wonderful to be involved with them. We had the readathon last night. We were about 20 of us read a book in its entirety from 8 o'clock in the evening right through to 6 o'clock this morning, which is when I went to bed. And then we've got this event, and then last week we had a fantastic event which was called Lit Forum, and it was a debate about the state of literature in Leeds today, and that is on our website. All our programmes are there. So tonight, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome Lydia and Cohen. I've known Lydia for many years, and she's a real old friend of Chapel FM, done masses of stuff here, and it's always lovely to have her. But also, I know of Cohen from his work in different festivals where I've been and seen his music. So it's this fantastic collaboration, and I can't wait. It's the premiere of this. It's the first one ever, and we're really looking forward to it. It's a game of two halves, just a little, just sort of flagging the football later on, which you will get back for if you want. So about 40 minutes in the first half, and then an interval. We do help yourself to teas and coffees and more biscuits and cake or whatever, and then another 45 minutes then. And if you want to make a donation, then I will be downstairs and I'll be accepting them with a card on the little machine. So, because it is otherwise a free event, but you don't have to, it's just no pressure at all if you'd like to. So, without any more from me, Shanti.
Thank you very much. I opened the evening there with a short, nautical-inspired fugue that I wrote for the concertina. In order to answer that age-old question, what if J.S. Bach had been a character on Captain Pugwash?
Well, thank you, Cohen. That was a fantastic way to start this program. I'd really like to thank Leeds Lit Fest and Chapel FM for making this happen. It's been in the works for some years, and when I wrote these poems, I always knew that I wanted a musical collaborator, but I didn't know who it would be until I met Cohen, and then it was crystal clear to me. So, as you've been told, the first half of our program, I'll be reading poems I've written that are musically inspired, and Cohen will provide a musical commentary. After a short interval, we'll return with Shanti. Now, this is a sequence of poems about being emotionally lost at sea and surviving the effects of infidelity and adapting to a strange new land. And Cohen will help tell the story through traditional tunes and compositions he's written specifically for this event. So to start at the beginning, my musical education. I was probably like other kids that I got into music listening to records. I was not like other kids in that the records I listened to were old 78s on a wind-up gramophone, the kind of record player with a big tin horn and a crank at the side. I'd found this in the attic. And with the record player was a collection of records that had belonged to my grandmother, and they were mostly opera stars of the early 1900s. And I set about working my way through this collection, most of them in foreign languages. I had no idea what they were singing about. But one song in particular, really grabbed me. I had no idea what it was about, but it was very, very sad. And I just wanted to listen to it over and over again. And I learned later that this was Enrico Caruso's recording of Vesti la Giubba, which was the first record to sell more than 1 million copies. He's in the character of the tragic clown, which is probably in popular culture the image that comes to mind when somebody says opera. I really enjoyed playing with this because it felt kind of like a toy, but what bowled me over was the sound that came out of this tin horn. It was raw and it was immediate and just completely compelling. So the first poem I'll read is called Gramophone. The enormous morning glory horn is metal, immodest yellow petals ready to amplify anything you want. The wooden box is square, the crank a slight question mark at its side. The turntable wears a fuzzy disc of felt. The mechanical arm is tapered and rounded. It may have once belonged to a small metal woman. It finishes in a single fingernail poised to point the music into being. You choose. Caruso? Of course, the tragic clown, ridi pagliaccio. Put him on the spindle and turn the handle round until the wooden box can take no more. Release the lock and watch the label blur. Now lift the shapely arm and place the fingernail. Careful, careful. Caruso's in the room. The notes are true. The moment when he put his face to those spreading petals and sang, that moment's reenacted now in this place. The inverse of that afternoon imprinted in shellac. Breathe with him through his barrel-chested pain. Soar and dive as the voice is here beside you, around you, in you, all glory, morning glory. Until the little silver arm waves, goodbye, click, goodbye, click, goodbye, click.
Well, when Lydia first read me that poem, it immediately put me in mind of this song. It's a music hall song from about 120 years ago, and it's one of the only songs that I know that mentions Caruso, of course, the operatic tenor, by name. And not only does it mention Caruso, it incorporates his name into the rhyme scheme in the most inspiring of ways, as you'll hear. It's a music hall song written from the perspective of a music hall performer who is sick of being pigeonholed as a mere singer of comical songs and sets his heights higher for the operatic stage. It's a song called I Want to Sing in Opera. And it was performed on the music hall stage by a singer called Wilkie Bard, and also taken up by various other music hall performers and performers of various other descriptions, including, I found out recently, Miss Piggy from the Muppets. So I'm in very fine company with this one. It says, I want to sing in opera. I'm getting so tired of these comedy songs. I want to sing something divine. I'm sure and I'm certain to shine as a star in the opera line. I simply love Wagner, Mozart and Puccini. Their music is really tip-top. So I mean to change my name, Blogs to Bloggini, and see if I can't get a shot. I want to sing in opera. I I've got that kind of voice. I'd always sing in opera if I could have my choice. Signor Caruso told me I ought to do so. That's why I want to sing in opera, sing in opera, hurrah. I want to play Carmen, I just love that part. The music's so awfully sweet, and all prima donnas I'd beat. If in Faust I could play Marguerite, I'd warble and trill like a human canary in recitative and duet. But managers seem to be just a bit wary. My chance hasn't happened as yet, but I want to sing in opera. I've got that kind of voice. I'd always sing in opera if I could have my choice. Signor Caruso told me I ought to do so. That's why I want to sing in opera, sing in opera. I want to sing in opera. I've got that kind of voice. I'd always sing in opera if I could have my choice. Signor Caruso told me I ought to do so. That's why I want to sing in opera, sing in opera, opera.
Bravo, Cohen, that was brilliant. I think the Metropolitan Opera has missed something here. The next poem I'll read is about the violinist Jascha Heifetz. He entertained the troops during World War II on both sides of the Atlantic to boost morale. And in 1944, he went on tour in Italy and North Africa. And he played 45 concerts in 8 weeks. It was a grueling schedule. He told the troops, classical music is like spinach. You may not like it, but it's good for you. Well, it turned out the troops loved spinach. They couldn't get enough of him. This poem is based on an anecdote by his accompanist, Milton Kay, who wrote about the conditions they performed in. He may have played one of the pianos that Steinway produced during the war. It was called the Victory Vertical, and it was actually designed to be dropped by parachute. And they did this, and they included a toolkit and instructions on how to tune it. So these pianos were nearly bomb-proof. The poem is called Heifetz in the Field. The battered upright, painted olive drab, is trundled off the truck 3rd time today, strings jangling. We're both in khaki, honorary captains, no medals, just dark sweat patches on our shirts. He's more than twice my age, but doesn't tire or doesn't show it. Despite the heat, he rubs his hands to warm them, then takes the violin case from the driver. This hospital has only amputees. I go on first, stop and smile to the field of upturned faces. Every man is partially constructed, as though his maker had been called away, forgetting to complete the task. And they wait young and otherwise perfect. I take my place, try the dusty keys. My accompaniment will be out of tune beneath the maestro's melody. Then sit in silence, both hands in my lap. Cheers and applause, and I know that he's appeared. He crosses with the violin under his arm, faces them, bows briefly. A dark-haired boy in the front row bats the air with his left hand while the stump of his right arm waves. His face shines. The maestro blinks, turns to tighten his bow once more, then tucks the fiddle under his chin and nods to me. I play the opening diminished chords by heart. The Leeds Leader Festival has a wonderful program called the Poets and Composers Forum, and there are people in this room who are very well acquainted with this. More people than I realized. This is fantastic. In a kind of speed dating exercise, they put a group of composers and poets together in a room and wait for each to find their counterpart. I took part in this in 2011. And found myself in a lively conversation with a composer about obsolete computers. We were clearly soulmates. This composer was Stephen Jackson, and the song we wrote together was called Out of Memory. Here are the lyrics. Out of memory. It has come to this, my beige beauty, my cyclops love. How many hours have we sat eyes to eye, I lost in the depths of your unblinking gaze, you singing your strange music. You comment on my keystrokes in perfect fourths and fifths. Yes, that's good. Willingly, you take my floppies into you, then respond with not responding. You don't mean to tease. You show me your hourglass with its magic sand eternally filling. And I sigh. It has come to this, my beige beauty. Sweet as our standalone love may be, it's obsolete. You are out of memory. And I have nothing to undo.
Well, this next one acts as a prelude to Lydia's next poem, which focuses on John Clare. And John Clare probably is best known to us today as a poet, but he was also a very skilled fiddle player in the English folk tradition, and had a great interest in the old fiddle tunes, the old songs, and travelled about his local area notating these old tunes down. Tunes like the three that I'm about to play. In fact, the third one was definitely a tune that was known to John Clare. It appears in one of his tune books. Three old English jigs. They're called A Trip to Birmingham, The Pole Booth, and Tequila.
I just can't believe the amount of music that comes out of that little box. It's like you've got a whole orchestra in there, and it's fantastic. Well, as Cohen said, John Clare is known primarily as a poet, and he referred to himself with his folk tune collecting as a decent scraper on the fiddle. I think he was being modest, probably. But his poems give us a unique insight into rural life during the Industrial Revolution. Later in life, his mental health began to deteriorate, and as he got older, he began to develop delusions. At one point, he was convinced he was Lord Byron, and he did spend a great deal of time voluntarily resident in asylums. On one occasion, when he was readmitted to an asylum, the form asked, was the insanity preceded by any severe or long-continued mental emotion or exertion? And the attending doctor's written response was, after years of poetical prosing. So this is what comes of writing poetry. This poem confronts the painful truth that most of us have to come to terms with when we foresee the day when our memories will not be reliable. John Clare notates a walk. I saw crotchets nesting in hedgerows today, heard buds of quavers bursting in the trees. Triplets were chasing each other around a field, while minims pinned to a clothesline billowed in the wind. And now, I meant to say I'll never forget how beauty held my heart, but that's a lie. This scene, these thoughts, this poem, your name and mine, will vanish from my memory long before I die. So I smooth a scrap of paper, scratch these marks in my best hand, the hook of a J, the curl of a C, to tell the future me the truth about that distant, glorious day. And here's the proof. This poem is called Ballade. Sundays, the letters home are written, and we're at loose ends, even the youngest, left to their own devices. I like to sit on the polished floor outside the door to the big hall where Mr. Wilson plays the piano. Always the same tune, and I know it note for note. The music wraps itself around me, the hugs I miss. Or it offers a hand in dance or beckons me to follow. But mostly, it makes me ache in a way that makes me want to ache more. The playing stops suddenly, and Mr. Wilson walks right past me. He doesn't see me. He never does. I'm not like Freddie, who can play Feu Elise, or Karen, who needs help with her letters, or Alice, who can run faster than anyone. Mr. Wilson has a special club. Everyone's in it except me. Years later, I'm driving through snow with the radio as company. The windscreen wipers beat a dogged tuple against a Chopin waltz, inscribing arcs in a lacy veil. Next, a ballade. And I can smell floor polish. I know it note for note, and I can hear the silences between them. I've been very privileged to be the guest of Britton Peers Arts for 2 creative retreats in Aldborough. For each of these, I lived alone in the modest 1960s bungalow that had been the home of Imogen Holst. Now, Imogen Holst was a composer, a conductor, a music educator, and joint artistic director with Benjamin Britten for the fledgling Aldborough Music Festival. Imogen's home was left just as it was when she died in 1984. Her books, her piano, her desk, her photographs and souvenirs of travel. The longer I stayed there, the better I got to know her. I discovered that she'd been a guest on Desert Island Discs, and I began to write a sequence of poems called Imo's Island. These poems were based partly on her very eclectic choice of discs for the program, but also partly on the objects I found in her home. I came across a small wooden box, and when I opened it, I found a very unusual metronome. The epigraph in this poem is a quote from Bach. Silent metronome. Everything must be possible. Johann Sebastian Bach. Spare me your wind-up tick-tock toys. This metronome balances on its perch a perfect compound pendulum, silver and sleek. A gentle nudge of the weighted bob sets it nodding. I'm taking the pulse of Brandenburg, too, on the wireless, far too fast. They're falling for that classic trap, no virtue in this virtuosity. And it's killing the dance and the lift of it. Of course, it's not the player's fault. God knows they're only doing their job. I blame the man with the stick. His first mistake is thinking the notes are important, but each rest is the unheard intake of breath that gives this music life. Worse, he's forgotten that with Bach, there is no place for the self. Well, enough of that. Ah, silence, dear friend. Now I can hear the music of the mind's ear. I adjust the metronome, touch it into action. Everything is possible.
Well, when myself and Lydia were putting together this first half of music and music that responds to poetry and poems about music, one thing that we struck on as common ground is this use of ballad form in both folk song and poetry as a tool for storytelling. And when people went out in the fields collecting folk songs in the 19th and early 20th centuries, the old narrative ballads were the most prized form of songs that they were seeking. And one of the most prolific collectors of folk songs in England was a man by the name of Cecil Sharp, who started collecting songs in the early 20th century. And over the course of about 25 years in the field, noted down 5,000 folk songs in total, including 1,500 that he noted on a collecting trip over to the United States. He was looking for old songs that were taken over to America by the earliest settlers in America and had remained current in the US. And he managed to find several examples of old ballads that had started off their life in England, but by the early 20th century were virtually extinct in England, but were still flourishing over the Atlantic, of which this is one. It's an old English ballad called Sweet William and Lady Margaret. Sweet William, he rose one May morning to rest himself in blue. Come tell unto me that long, long love that's between Lady Margaret and you. I know nothing of Lady Margaret's love, though I know she won't love me. But tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, Lady Margaret I will go see. Lady Margaret was sitting in a high window, combing her long yellow hair. She saw sweet William and his new wedded bride as they come a-riding there. Down she threw her ivory comb, back she tied her hair, and then sank down down from my high window and never was seen back there. When day it was gone and night come on, all were fast asleep. Lady Margaret, she rose with the tears in her eye to stand at William's feet, said, "How do you like your bed, master? How do you like your sheet? How do you like that new wedded bride that lies in your arms asleep? Very well do I like my bed," he said. "Well, I like my sheet, but nothing I love half as much as the girl at my bed feet. Sweet William he called his merry men all, by one, by two, by three, said, "I will away to Margaret's bower with the leave of my lady." When he came to fair Margaret's bower, he's told low on the pin there was none so ready as her 7 brothers to arise and bid him in. Well, where is Lady Margaret? How does she do? And is she in the hall? For is she in her chamber bright among the ladies all? No, she's not in her chamber bright, nor is she in the hall, but she's lying in her cold coffin with a pale face turned to the wall. Unwind and unwind a cold pale face, her cheeks unbound to see. She is the one I've always loved. She stole my heart from me. 3 times he's kissed her lily white hand, 3 times kissed her breast, 7 times he's kissed her cold pale cheeks, and then did go to rest.
Thank you, Cohen. I love the way that the ballads transform when they cross the Atlantic. For instance, I believe Lord Randall became Jimmy Randall, didn't he, when he reached America? So I will be offering a ballad of my own, but before I do that, I would like to talk a little about Shanty, which is the piece we're performing in the second half of this program. The Leeds Lit Fest blurb describes Shanty as a story of discovery, betrayal, obsession, and recovery that uses language borrowed from traditional navigation as well as the jargon of digital space. And this is all completely true because I wrote it. But to put it a little more bluntly, Shanty is about the effects of infidelity on one person in a relationship. It's part Greek tragedy, it's part soap opera, it's part detective story, and it all kicks off with the discovery of a mysterious phone backup file that includes a location history. And the nautical theme that runs through it is appropriate for a character who's survived being emotionally lost at sea. Cohen has written some tunes especially for this, and he will also be performing some traditional tunes that expand on the story. When we come back, we're going to perform Chantier as a continuous piece without introduction, so I ask you to curb your enthusiasm and save your applause for the end. But before then, I'm going to read a ballad of my own. Now, the ballads often tell of thwarted love or murder, or thwarted love and murder, but they were also sometimes used as vehicles of protest, either overtly or in hidden messages. So what I'm going to read now is a ballad for our times, and it is a protest ballad. And I will warn you that it was a difficult poem to write, and it's difficult to read, and I suspect it is difficult to listen to. But I think sometimes difficult is part of the poet's job. Round and round. It was on a morning shining bright in the 10th month of the year, with leaves as red is bold, a sky as blue as cold, when the yellow bus drew near. The wheels on the bus go round and round, the wheels on the bus go round. Amanda and Kimberly ran ahead, and so did Diego and Pete. Like leaves before a sudden gust, they ran ahead to meet the bus and find their favorite seat. The wheels on the bus go round and round, the wheels on the bus go round. The parents waved to the windows and called from the curb where they stood, "Give Mrs. Nicholson your note. Don't forget to find your coat. Bye-bye, Amanda, be good." The wheels on the bus go round and round, the wheels on the bus go round. Their classroom had a visitor that bright October day. An AR-15 in his hands, he had his ammo, had his plans, and yes, he had his way. The wheels on the bus go round and round, the wheels on the bus go round. Amanda did as she was told. Amanda, she was good. When the gunman ordered them to stand, she didn't question or raise her hand. She just got up and stood. The wheels on the bus go round and round, the wheels on the bus go round. It was on a morning shining bright. It was on a wet November night. It was on an afternoon in May. It was on tomorrow's yesterday. And the wheels on the bus go round and round. The wheels on the bus go round. I offer this next poem as something of an antidote to the last one, and hope it brings some comfort. It contemplates the transformative power of music. In the chapel of the agnostics, we step inside only to escape the crowds, the heat, to rest our feet. My eyes ache with the sudden dark. A choir rehearses a sanctus, and so in tacit agreement we sit. And after every breath the singers take, notes float like a careful breathing on embers until the stained glass shimmers. Blood rubies, spilled sun, unfurling ferns, blue too dark for twilight, too light for night. Glimpses of charnel house white. I turn to you and find your profile unreadable against this brilliance. And I know that I too have been erased by this grace, that our faces are not the point of us, not here and not in any other place. Well, the final poem in this section takes us back to Imogen Holst's home on Church Walk. I would sit at her desk and became very aware of the church bells ringing. It was just down the lane, and I became very intrigued by them. I found a book in her house about change ringing, and then found that she had chosen the local bell ringers as one of her desert island discs. So I decided to write a poem that followed the pattern of one of these changes. It's called the plain hunting change. So each line throughout the poem ends in one of 4 words, each word representing one of the bells. If you hadn't already suspected, I am something of a geek, and this kind of problem solving I really enjoy. And when you hear the quote from Imogen Holst, when she describes how she would probably spend her time on her desert island, I think I found another geek in her. If you are interested in that kind of thing, listen out for the words sing, ring, bring, and thing. And if you're not a nerd, then you'll probably just I hope you'll just enjoy the music in the poem. After this poem, Cohen will perform the closing number for this half, and we'll take a short break. I really appreciate your listening. Change ringing. If there were a large expanse of sand, you could take a stick and try working out your own changes, and it would keep you happy for years if necessary. Imogen Holst, Desert Island Discs. A vast beach where the waves sing just as they do in Sussex, but with a deeper ring, a tone that says, we cannot bring you home, but this is a thing you already know. Beyond the sand, a ring of nameless trees. They sing in the wind, and the thing you don't expect is the joy they bring. Joy because they tower above you and ring like changes on a Sunday morning, something so familiar in this strange place. You sing full-throated because it doesn't matter. You bring a long stick back to the beach. You know nothing of swimming or building a shelter. No life ring, no mirror to signal an SOS to bring rescuers from a boat that's passing. With the tide to your right, you begin to make a thing, to write out in the sand all the changes you can bring to mind. Plain hunt, grandsire, surprise royal, all ring clearly in your ears as you write numbers using your long stick. The waves may bring a blur to your notations, but you work and nothing makes you happier than work. You sing the pitch of each bell in its turn to ring. Bells and the broken calls of gulls bring you back to Church Walk, where muffled tides sing and sigh outside in time to your own breathing. You look up from your desk and the changes ring. On this beach, your memory holds entire Bach cantatas to sing, whole symphonies and sonatas, but you choose bells to bring you comfort. They don't insist on telling stories. They ring true. They're only notes. They are nothing and everything. You're 6 miles down the beach, and the waves still sing, just as they do in Sussex, but with a deeper ring, a tone that says, we cannot bring you home, but this is no terrible thing. Thank you.
Well, as a response to that poem about bells, Lydia's specifically asked me to perform this piece, which is inspired by the sound of bells. This instrument, for those of you that don't know, is called the concertina, and the concertina was invented about 200 years ago, so it's a comparatively modern instrument in the grand scheme of things. And concertina players discovered fairly early on that there were a few tricks that they could use the concertina for to imitate the sound of pealing bells. And this piece, which is called New Year's Day, incorporates a few of those tricks. And as Lydia says, this will be the final piece for this half, and we'll be, we've got our shop set up downstairs in the foyer. Lydia's got copies of her books, and I've got copies of my album, and along with that, a mailing list which you can sign up for and receive updates on various performances and Cohen Braithwaite-Kilcoyne news. And I'll just squeeze in one little plug. I'm back in Leeds on the 7th of October, launching my new forthcoming solo album at the Grove Inn, and it would be nice to have an audience there, if you catch my drift. This is New Year's Day.
Tune in?
Yes, you can.
Can I tune in?
Yes, you can.
Can I tune in?
Yes, you can.
You're listening to East Leeds Community Radio. So that's a nice thing, isn't it?
Oh, the times are hard and the wages are low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. The times are hard and the wages low. It's time for us to leave her. Oh, the work was hard and the voyage was long. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. The sea was high and the gales were strong. It's time for us to leave her. And the wind was foul, all work, no pay. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. To Liverpool docks from Frisco Bay. It's time for us to leave her.
And longitude. Ask any mariner. Latitude is the simple one. It speaks of laissez-faire, of ease. The ferries claim to girdle the earth with otherworldly speed. We need only an astrolabe to take the stars and tell how far we are from fat equator, middling tropics, polar wedding rings, showing us our places in the north and south of things. These are the parallels. But longitude, even the word divides our tongues, some long like longing, while others lunge. These phantom lines that mark both space and time eluded navigators, lost at sea or forced to take the longer route to reach a destination. So God bless the inventors. Here's to their clockworkeries, chronometers that tilt and tick in their gimbaled cases, showing us our places in the east and west of things. These are the meridians. Belted and segmented, the earth is ours to plot, to pinpoint, to a dot. Stardust in Scotland. Our treads devour the road ahead. We share a metal room, speeding through swiveling glens. The speakers sing the great American songbook. The day is wet and dismal. You teach me Drich and Druket. I teach you Hoagie and Jerome. We are at our best encapsulated. Ours is a superior world. These hours are not Earth hours. Your phone lies in your shirt pocket in silent communion with satellites placid in their orbits, while their waves find their mark through all the wrappings of this planet, signals born in the stilly dark. I have no pocket, but here is my own small device, tracking us with every geo-beating pulse. This is where we are now, and now, and now. Location History 1. You've left me a riddle. Now what can it mean? These numbers and letters that dance on the screen? And you know how I love a puzzle. When I asked for your laptop, you said, I don't mind. You had nothing to hide. I had nothing to find. But this file is such a conundrum. This document's massive, and random words roll past my widening eyes as I scroll and I scroll. How little mouse loves to be stroked. It seems from the day when your mobile was new, it's been in cahoots with your laptop, and who could have known what they told each other? There's timestamp, and latitude 5382, and accuracy 10, and activities 2. Then there's type of what? And some points hidden, true, and on bicycle, on foot, and in vehicle too. And there's tilting, tilting, tilting. Tilting and timestamp. Tilting and timestamp are talented twins. One is an acrobat, one is a dancer. Ask them a question, they'll give you an answer. Tilting knows when your mobile's picked up or put down. She records every flick-flack and salto and pike when you drive in the car or you go for a hike. Or you jump to the buzz of your phone on your desk or the hum in your pocket when walking through town. Tilting knows when your mobile's picked up or put down. Timestamp's a tap dancer 24/7, tracking the year with a brush and a shuffle, the month and the day with a spank and a scuffle. The minute and second with paddle and stomp, her heel dig's divine and her hitch kick is heaven. Timestamp's a tap dancer 24/7. Together, they know who's awake through the night. One is an acrobat, one is a dancer. Ask them a question, they'll give you an answer. Homecoming. I have outflown the hours. My stickered case waits with me at the curbside. Your embrace is all that I have thought of through the night, the long, short night that is a westerly flight. I still smell of hospice. And here you are, your kisses, arm around my waist, the car cleaned inside and out, you say, to honor me and my return. Then home, and there I see red tulips, every room arranged and neat. Later, in bed, I see that even the sheets are changed. Such sweet kindness sets me weeping. I turn to you, but find you sleeping.
The seas are high, the mast is down. Leave Sir Johnny, leave her. The seas are high, the mast is down. It's time for us to leave her.
Strand. I was a skiff, content to lie on my side on the shore when the tide was out, happy to wait among cuttlebones and mermaids' purses while the gulls called and the sandhoppers slept. In time, the tide would return and I'd right myself again. I never asked where the tide had been. I only knew that it lifted me, that I became my other self, weightless, buoyant. Location history 2. Here is the cellular autobiography of a phone that isn't mine, writing itself line by line from Sim Day to Look What I Found Day. Here is our old friend, Little Mouse, scuttling across the screens of runes. Here are tilting and longitude and numbers prim with secrets. Said the mobile to its owner, "Whither thou goest, I will go." But the owner didn't know there'd be a trail of digital crumbs. These I followed day and night until I found a spell for where that turned those numbers into there, a black X on a globe. Then I fathomed other clues that led me to a spell for when, that turned those numbers into then, down to the very second. Now, give me a date, I can tell you the place. Give me a place, I can tell you the date. Give me a digital map, though it's late, I'll take you on a journey. In Street View, it's eternally spring. Location A. I stand in a virtual road and turn round and round until I'm virtually dizzy. I do not know this place. A house by allotments, back street with cars parked forever, rubbish bins caught mid-yawn, a mattress that will not be collected and will not rot. It should be a winter's day, but the only tree is fuzzy with bud. Location B. We're off again, and the mobile moves brum brum along the streets, then stops. It's 15 minutes later. I stand in a virtual road and turn round and round until I'm virtually dizzy. I do know this place. Our house. Front street with cars parked forever, black gate left ajar, an open window, curtain and perpetual, ta-da! It should be a winter's day, but the garden shows 2 roses desperate to unfurl. And here, the mobile stays and sleeps, none of the usual midnight chat, until it tilts itself awake at 08:27:10. Back to the allotments house, then straight away, brum brum, it's home once more. I check the date again. This was the season of flying away to hold my father's hand through his slow unspooling. I'd stay a week, sometimes 2. Time would rush, then stall. Now, let's find all. Here be dragons. This dragon has the fishy stink of rotting meat between its teeth. The fire it breathes rolls over the seas, startling sailors who've lived for years in fear of death by drowning. This dragon has the thin-fleshed wings of a bat, wings large enough to spread a sudden dusk, silver scimitar claws, yellow reptile eyes, murderous and lovely. This dragon never sleeps. This dragon never sleeps. America. Oh, my America, my new-found land. John Donne to his mistress going to bed. Charmed by the bold conceit, I must confess. Charmed by your timely recitation, too. Yet the poet's parts assigned were less attractive. Landmass, me. Explorer, you. Tobacco, beaver pelts, potatoes, these to simple men you might propose are treasures. Men who roam the lands and ride the seas, but find their peace in home and homely pleasures. No, had you been explorer, you would seek some El Dorado or the fountain of youth, scoffing at those others dull and meek, your logbooks full of wonders, if not truth. I've had my fill of metaphors, whatever. No newfound land remains newfound forever. Dead reckoning. Longitude eludes me. For want of a chronometer, I am reduced. I know the rules. Start with a fix, landmark, sun, moon, stars, the certain knowledge that this is where you are. Gauge the rate. Mark the hour. Multiplying speed and time will give you distance or something thereabouts. Compensate for set and drift. Then, when you arrive at that imaginary dot, the there of yesterday becomes our here. Plot a new course, hold the sheets and heave to. I stitch my hopes across the sea until a land hoe disabuses me, or a clear sky lets me take my bearings. But these heavens are shy. By day, the the sun is cloaked. By night the constellations cry, and the sextant lies in its case. So error compounds error. One place that might be here projected from another, one speculation gathering itself until it breaks to form the next.
The water's cold, our days are done. Leave a journey, leave her. The water's cold, our days are done. Too late, we leave her.
Burial at sea. We therefore commit his body to the deep to be turned into corruption, looking for the resurrection of the body when the sea shall give up her dead. Book of Common Prayer, 1789. He was sewn into his hammock, sling of sweet dreams, with a cannonball to speed him to the bottom of the deep. The sailmaker's stitches were properly done, from the feet to the head, with the last through the nose, to satisfy the mariners who believed the old tale that a corpse that's untethered will haunt their ship. The weather was fair when the sailor fell from the mizzenmast at midday, and the seas were calm. His messmates will mourn him, but no one was surprised that a careless slip should take him on a windless day. He was quick to pass the grog and slow to haul a halyard, handier with a hornpipe than a holystone. Some thought the voyage fated, setting sail on a Friday, but truth to tell, it never was the ship that was doomed. At all hands bury the dead ahoy, he was tipped into the ocean and disappeared. The water was cold, but the weight did its work. Soon he rested on the seabed by a skeleton wreck. I'd like to say he settled near a Spanish galleon surrounded by a bounty of gold doubloons. But it was just a packet boat, loaded once with letters. The Mercury, her cargo of words long lost. And it's there he lies, and it's there he waits, and it's there he sometimes wonders how all this had come to pass. The lying eye. I was adrift, and you were a looming ghost ship shimmering where the sea met the sky. I was lost in the Sahara, and you were a vision of water and shade to tempt me on when I thought I could go no farther. I was dead in my skin, and you were a tropical sunset glorified by desert dust carried across the oceans. I was dazzled, crazy, bamboozled. I couldn't believe my eyes, and yet I did. This, at least, was not your doing, but the work of nature and conniving hope. So I've learned the habit of distrust. I hear a hollow promise in the receding tide, and in the air there's artifice. I see skullduggery and fakery everywhere. Words in transit. You and I sit face to face across a table. The air is thick with words in transit, text messages thumbed from the other side of the planet, phone conversations mute in the void between speakers, emails tapped out then let loose. We inhale the silent chatter, lists, reminders, trysts, instructions, fake news, fake news, arguments, jokes, questions, boasts, arrangements, and drunken ramblings. We exhale the waste in sighs. You and I sit face to face across a table, making audible words with breath and teeth and tongues and vocal cords. Your hopeful self now mouths the stale words of not exactly what occurred, but what you wish had happened. In return, my hopeful self wants to believe, but fails. A new and accurate map of the world, drawn according to the truest descriptions, latest discoveries, and best observations yet to have been made by English or strangers. I have made landfall with a mouth full of sand, tossed from the sea with splintered fingers and a barnacled belly. I will eat nameless fruits and hope against poison. I will watch the moon rise while the turtles hatch and make their flappy way to water. I will scrimshaw a comb for a sweetheart I never had and sing to long-feathered birds shanties of blood-red roses. I will find passage on a passing caravel. I will return to the town I once called home. I will draw maps, but make no claim that they are true. only that these are the things I have seen and the places I believe I have been. I'd just like to say thank you once again for being such an attentive audience. It's been a real pleasure. And thank you to Cohen for such wonderful musical contributions. Thanks again.
Whether you're relaxing at the Seacroft Community Garden, training at the Dennis Healy Centre, hanging out at Kentmere, or eating at the LS14 Trust Pantry, or, I don't know, climbing the Himalayas, wherever you are in the world, you should be listening to East Leeds Community Radio.